Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Sisters of Legacy. We are going to run our intro and we will be right back. All right, ladies, we are back. So, again, you guys, welcome to tonight's episode of Sisters of Legacy. I have the wonderful Shanetta McNair
Hey.
and Katrina Taylor with us.
Hello.
We are missing Tangela Terrell tonight, but we are gonna hold it down for her in her absence. So you have the three of us. Hey, Richard, thanks for joining us. Okay, ladies. So as always, I always see something, and then I'm like, oh yeah, let's talk about that. So this week it was actually quite a few things um, that I kind of saw. Hi, ladies. Hi, honey. Thanks for joining us. Um, there was a video of a pastor. He's actually a pastor somewhere. I don't know where. And he was talking about how basically he kind of feels burned out right now. He's burned out. Um, he was kind of through his talking, kind of making it seem like he's not really sure how he got stuck in this space or how he, kind of got here, but he was feeling really burned out and he was going to be, I guess, in some ways, kind of taking a sabbatical and letting some of his ministers and stuff preach or whatever. But he really went into depth about what he was feeling, like, the extent of, I guess, him being burnt out. He went into like real description. And so I kind of was thinking about that. And I know sometimes, especially like being a parent, being a mom, like that's a whole extra something. And when you have multiple kids, like the more kids, the more stuff, that comes with it. So I know sometimes we get worn out. Um, I'm not gonna say burned out. You may have your own definition. I know sometimes I'm burned out. My kids I'm like, I need a minute. I need some time. I need some space. I just need to be alone with myself and try to regroup. So I know for me, I've had those moments. So I was like, maybe we should talk about it because I'm sure other people have those same moments where you feel like you're burnt out. You feel like I can't make another deal. I can't referee another fight. I can't deal with the smiling lady at work today, Jesus. Just let her walk past my desk. I can't deal with the mean usher today. Whatever it is, I know we've had those moments where it's just like enough. You want everything to stop. So I kind of wanted to talk about that and talk about how we navigate those times or how you navigate those times. So Shanetta, you're a teacher. So not only have you had, and I know your children, really, your children aren't little anymore, but for in my mind anyway, parenting never ends. Doesn't matter if they're 6 months or 50 years old. Like you're a parent. Like, you're still mom. And then you go to work and deal with 20 something other people kids.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us kind of about that. Like how have you gotten to the point where you feel like, okay, enough. If one more kid asks for one more thing, I'm just
So absolutely.
You can't say that,
right? I actually can. Let me tell you something that happened today. And it wasn't really burnt out, but it was like burnt out from this situation today. Right. So when I work with my kids, I work with kids that have they struggle in a lot of areas. So I'm a language arts teacher, so I work with kids that definitely have struggles with reading. That's my group of kiddos. And so I know that it takes a little bit more than the ordinary teaching to reach them and to get to what they really, really need each day. So today I meet with them in small groups based on their reading levels and what they need. So I was meeting with one of my small groups, and I smile about it because it was just really an interesting situation. So I'm sitting there and I'm like trying to remind them of the story we just read 2 weeks ago, because I want to compare the story that we read 2 weeks ago to the story that they're about to read today. And I'm like trying to do this great comparison. I did it with my first group of kids in the class before them. It went over well. So I'm like, I'm ready and I'm trying to compare it. And I had these kids and they're looking at me in this group, and I have other kids over working on something else. And they're looking at me like they have no earthly idea what I'm talking about. And so I'm like, you remember the story, right? And so one kid goes, yeah, and kind of looks around like, I don't know. And another one is like, just staring at me like I didn't just ask the question. So I'm sitting there, and as I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, just keep going. So I kept going, and I'm telling them more about this comparison that I'm trying to do, and they're still just giving me the same look. And I'm like, hey, like, do you all hear me? Do you know what I'm talking about? Am I talking loud enough? Like, what's the deal? And they're just staring at me. So in that moment, I found myself spiraling. Like, it wasn't even about them in that moment. A lot of times the kids spiral out on me, and I'm just kind of like, okay, this isn't working. But in that moment, I found myself spiraling because I was getting frustrated. I was becoming overwhelmed. I was like, they were wearing me out. They were like working me in that moment. And I was like, I can't do this right now. How about this? I want y'all to go work on your writing assignment for a few minutes. And when I get my life together, I'll come back to y'all. So I sent them away. And they went away and they did some work on some other stuff. And then like about 10 minutes later, I was like, okay, come back. Let's try it again. And we kind of started over and regrouped. But for me, that moment is the perfect example of what the process of what burnout looks like. So like you're going, you're trying, you're doing all that you know, you're doing your routines. And then you get to this place and you're just kind of like, this is a lot. This is a whole lot for me. It may not be a whole lot for everybody else, because everybody else is just like looking at you and they're staring at you and they're just fine. Another person is over there off in the corner and they're nodding to whatever you have going on, and they're just fine. But you find yourself spiraling. You find yourself like getting out of whack. And it's like, okay, what do I do? I could have kept going in that moment, and it probably would have been a hot mess for all of us. And I would have made it that way for all of us. Or I could do what I chose to do and stop and pause for a moment, regroup, get myself together, and then come back to it. I think I didn't learn that early on. When my kids were small, I didn't learn that. It was just go, 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 go. And then when my mind or my body put me down, it was what it was in that moment. And I just had to deal with the fallout of being burnt out in those moments. I didn't learn that until I got a little bit older. And it was just kind of like, okay, when you start to feel yourself spiraling, you have to stop. Yes, you still are a mommy and you're still a good mommy. Yes, you still are a wife and you're a good wife. Yes, you still are, good at your job and good at what you do, but you can stop. You can take a day. You can take a moment. You can take a deep breath and not allow yourself to spiral in this moment when see, hear, and feel it. So that's kind of like mine. But like, I definitely saw myself today and I was just like, ooh. And so one of the kids, like, I just sat when they walked away, I sat like this for a second. And another one who wasn't in the group with us, he said, are they stressing you out? And I was like, I'm just stressed out. It's not them, it's me. And he was like, we stressing you out. Okay, we're going to do our work right now and be quiet. I was like, I love you. I appreciate you in this moment. But I felt myself, so I knew I needed a break in that moment because that would have been a hot mess. Now, when they came back, one of them still stared at me like nothing was everything I was speaking was like in a whole nother language that she didn't know. But that was cool because after a while, I kind of said, "Hey, if you came up to me and you started talking to me and I just stared at you and didn't answer any of your questions, how would you feel?" And she was like, confused. I said, same. That's kind of how I feel right now, kid. She was like, oh, okay. So she got it in that moment. My kids are 8th graders too. So they can kind of take conversations like that. It's not like I'm saying that to a kindergartner and they're just kind of like, oh, I'm so sorry. My kids are like, oh, okay. So it just confuses you when I stare at you. Yes, kid, like talk to me. Like I'm talking to you, talk to me. um, but yeah, that moment helped me to kind of connect to this conversation. So I looked at the text and I was just kind of like, that's funny because I had that moment today. So yeah, just those burnout moments.
I mean, I think that it's great. Like you said, you realize you were spiraling, realizing enough that I need to take a step back. And I think sometimes we don't take that step back. We feel ourselves spiraling, we feel things get out of control, we feel our emotions rising or whatever may be happening, and we don't take a step back. We don't want to appear weak or appear like a failure. It's like, well, if I can't do it, then I'm a failure. And so we push ourselves sometimes harder than we should. Like you said, it's okay to need a moment, and that doesn't make you a bad mother. It's
Right.
okay to need a moment, and that doesn't make you a terrible wife. I think it's important to know those things, like, and really accept that. Like, I'm human. Like, we human. I mean, sometimes I don't think we don't think about it. It's like there's so much stuff to do. Who got time to think about being human? Just gotta get it done. And although that's true, like you said, your body and your mind sometimes will cut out on you. They will chuck the deuces, and and you just, that's kind of just it. It's like, okay, you won't sit down, but we're gonna sit down.
Yep.
And and so I think it's important to know those areas where you're reaching your limit, and your boundaries, and then try to, will yourself back in before it gets to that point. Hi.
Definitely.
Hi, Mother No. Oh, well, yes, Mother Norris. Listen, that's going to forever, that's going to forever be who you are. So, Trina?
I think for me, as far as burnout, I think it's when you're feeling overwhelmed and you feel like you don't have options. Um, I mean, you feel like you don't have options. You probably do, but a lot of times you feel like you don't have options. You feel like um, you can't go to this person for help, or you're just stuck. And then you want to maybe take a break, but you feel like you can't, or you want to do something else, but you feel like you can't. It's that I feel like I can't, and that's when I think that's when it comes in. I remember one time I was working for this law firm, and I just had, the way it worked, it was like your caseload was your caseload. So it was like, to call in from work was like a big deal, because now another attorney had to, either come from another area in the state and cover your hearings or whatever. So it was always a big deal, and there wasn't a lot of coverage if you needed to take off. And I remember I woke up one morning and I literally felt like, that slow, heavy feeling you could just, I was so sick. I don't know whether I had the flu or whatever it was, but I remember sitting there about to cry because I felt like I couldn't call in. I'm like, I feel like I'm about to die, but I feel like now, I literally sat there and made arrangements to handle some of the cases and try to maybe get somebody else to help me. And I was so stressed out. Why am I feeling stressed out when I'm sick? And I should just be able to call and say, look, I'm sick. I can't come in today. Right. And I stressed myself out so much. And I also know, like, a lot of times when, you know, as a mom, if your kid is sick and you're like, oh no, I can't call into work, and you're stressed out and you're looking to, oh, okay, it's almost like you could probably, it's not quite a fever. It's just a little bit, you know, maybe if I send you to school and you tell them if you feel, and then you could come, then I could call. Like, you shouldn't have to make those types of decisions and choices, especially with your health. But like, you know, but when you constantly have to do those types of things, that's when you get burnout, because it's like you're overwhelmed. And it's just like, this is too much. I should be able to take care of my health. I should be able to have a balance in my life. I should be able to have options. And when you don't have those options and you're constantly faced with, is my kid sick? Am I sick? Just all the 800 things you have to do, and you feel like you don't have options. That's when you start to get burnout, because you're overwhelmed without choices.
So I think it's important, you know, when you were saying you feel like you don't have any choices, you know, and I think sometimes I know I do it too. Like, I feel like if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. And not just with my kids, but like, you know, like, I've been at a job and somehow convinced my crazy self that if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. Lo and behold, I don't even work there no more. So somebody else could have did it then. You know, it's like, I think sometimes we take on some of that responsibility, you know, like, that doesn't even belong to us. You know, like, I told that whole, we feel so strong, and, you know, we get into a do mode, and, you know, we take on stuff, and after a while, you're like, you running, you take it on, you're like, yeah, I got this. And then right around mile 5, it's like, oh, this is heavy. Like, you start looking around and you don't even realize when you've picked up so much weight. Yeah. You know, like, you don't realize, like, when did I even start doing this? Okay, why you know, it's kind of like you go down and think, like, why am I even doing this? Like, I don't have to do this. And I think that's sometimes the hardest part, like, admitting that I don't even have to do this. I don't want to do it. I don't have to do it. And 9 times out of 10, like, if I don't do it, somebody else will. Or it's one of those things that, you know, okay, well, maybe nobody will do it, but the world won't end.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think we kind of have to, as weird as it sounds, you know, you got to remind yourself, the world will not end. Even if I lay in this bed all day because I'm sick, I don't feel like it. The world will not end because I'm not getting up today.
Yeah. I think it's important. I think it's important to learn how to say no to things that stretch you too thin. I can remember when my daughter was young, I wanted her to be a Girl Scout, because when I was a kid, I was a Girl Scout. So it was like, okay, let's go be a Girl Scout. So I took her, you know, got the little paper from school, and I was like, okay, we're going to join this Girl Scout troop. So we went and we joined this Girl Scout troop, and we were participating, and everything was going well. And then, like, the troop leader could no longer be the troop leader. And they were like, well, we need another parent to step up. I don't even remember how my name got thrown into the but all I remember is that before I knew it, I was now a Girl Scout leader. And then it, like, morphed. And like a couple of years later, I was like a Girl Scout troop leader at the church. And we had like a multi-level troop. And so, like, it wasn't just, oh, my daughter is a brownie and now I'm a brownie troop leader, but like, we had daisies, we had brownies, we had juniors. And I was just like, how in the world did I end up with a whole multi-level Girl Scout troop? But it was it was just that thing. Now, mind you, simultaneously, I also wanted her to be a cheerleader, because, you know, guess who was a cheerleader as a kid? So I put her in cheerleading, and then they were like, "Oh, we have enough boys to have 2 football teams, and now we need to split the girls up and have 2 cheerleading teams." So they were like, "We need a parent to step up." Somehow or another, here I am now. I'm a Girl Scout troop leader. I'm a cheerleading coach. Of course, I'm a mom with boys that play football, which means that you end up being a team mom sometimes, or you have to like provide like snacks for game days or something like that. And then so you have all these different things going on, and it's like you look back over it and you're like, how did I end up even here? Like, who signed me up for this? Because I don't even know if I remember signing myself up for this. And then you have that day that your kid comes home and they're like, "Oh, I have a science fair project that's due." "Okay, kid, when is it due?" "Tomorrow. And I need to grow a whole plant overnight." Or I need you to bake 200 cookies for the bake sale tomorrow morning. And it's just like you're trying to do all these different things and you haven't found a way, or you don't even feel like there's an appropriate time to just say, "No, we're not doing this. Like, this is not where we're going." You're just like, okay, super mom mode. Like, let's go, let's do it. So you're baking cookies, you're growing a plant overnight, you're going to football practice and cheerleading practice, and then you got a Girl Scout meeting, and then you still got to make it to Bible study by 7:30, because you can't slight the Lord in the midst of everything that you're doing, right? So you got all this stuff happening, and you still have to be up at 5 a.m. to get the kids ready so that you can go to work too. And it's just like, what happened? How did I get here? But definitely, like, I've found myself, and I'm like, I don't even know when I said yes to this, but like, here I am. So let's go.
Yeah, that is definitely a lot. And like I said, I know that sometimes, we pick up stuff, those kids, those little wonderful kids that we created and carried all those months on the inside. When they come out, then we just want to keep, we want to be super mom. We want our kids to look at us and see their heroes and, giants. And we want their story to always be my mom always. And I don't know, my kids, they halfway there. I still got some more years before my kids are even y'all kids' age. And I realize that always is going to kill me. Like, it's that always, my kids, like, I love them. And I'm willing to give them almost anything except my life. Like, at some point, the madness has got to stop. Like, like we do so much. And before you know it, now you're sick. So you in the bed, because you haven't taken care of yourself. And I think it's so important, especially as moms, these little people that we love so dearly, to introduce them to that no word early, so that they grow up understanding that boundaries are important. Because I realize if my daughter sees me always doing everything, "Oh, mommy, we asked her to do this, she did this. Oh, they asked her to do that at church, she did this." I feel like she's gonna grow up with the same bad habits that I've been showing her for all these years. And I'm like, this, that's not what I want to teach her. It's great to sometimes, to push your limits. It's great sometimes to do a little extra here and there. But, reminding her that she has to take care of herself first. Like I tell them, I can't be a good mom if I'm worn out. If I'm up all night with the girl because she's sick, and then in the morning the boy want me to get up and make breakfast early, even though I've been up all night, and then let's not forget the husband, because he got a list, a list of things that he needs as well. It's like, y'all gonna wear mommy out. Like, mommy has to learn how to say no, and I think that becomes very hard for us sometimes, especially with our children. That no, sometimes it's like, I know for me, I feel like sometimes that no is attached to failure. Like, if I say no, I can't do it, somehow I failed them as a mom. Like, and even now, like, sometimes I have to just kind of shake it off, because sometimes they have to hear no, but it hurts me. It kills me. Because even when I say no, in my head, I'm still trying to figure out how I can do it. And
Absolutely.
it's like, your mama said no. He's like, that's enough. Like, no means no, but it's hard. It's hard as a parent, to say no sometimes. Like I said, we want to be that hero. We want them, to see us as being 10 feet tall, always being there. Um, so I think sometimes to our own detriment, we
Mm-hmm.
go too far. We go too far. So, okay, so we talked about kind of leading up to being burned out, kind of paying attention to those moments where you feel like you are getting overwhelmed. Or like you said, Shanetta, those moments where you feel like, okay, I'm starting to spiral. I kind of got to back off of it. So what happens when you said we have to teach them how to balance life? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That balance is important. Having balance. And balance is gonna look like something different. Balance is gonna look like something different for every person. Oh boy, I heard no lots. So I asked dad and he said yes. Balance looks like something different for every household, for every person. You may have a lot of this and a little bit of this. It's gonna look different because we all have different capacities. We all have different, areas in which we shine. Like, for me to cook 6 days a week, ain't a big deal. Like, that's like breathing for me. I like to cook. So cooking is not really like a stressor for me. It's not one of those things that make me feel overwhelmed. Actually, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, if I go in the kitchen and start banging the pots, I start feeling better. But in Jeanette's house, cooking 7 days a week might be like, okay, that's not the area that I want to shine in. I'm gonna shine over here. Right. So, balance is going to look different
Yeah.
for everybody. And I feel like you just have to figure out, those areas where you can, put a little bit over here and take a little bit over there to kind of balance out your own load. There's no perfect way to do this. I don't care what people tell you. There's no perfect way to parent. There's no perfect way to be a wife. There's no perfect way to be a friend, because we are all different. We're all different. Our makeup is different. The way we think is different. So everybody's story is going to be different. And don't get me wrong, we're all going to have some similarities. Like, we're all moms. So at one point, everybody's going to have that kid story. They're like, really? Your kid did that? My kid did that. And then if your kids are small, it's like, oh my God, are my kids going to do that when they get older? Like, we kind of have those moments where there are these similarities. Like, my kids are still young, so I be asking, like, Trina, okay, is this girl supposed to be doing this? Or I ask Shanetta, like, because their kids are older. And I think some of finding balance is also having a network, somebody that you can call. Like, for a while I was not really a single parent. I lived by myself with the kids. That's the easiest way to put it. And my son like started doing something that I thought was like really, really weird. So, I, being who I am, I start calling the guys I know because he a boy. I don't really know how the boy stuff works. So I was calling them like, hey, is this normal? They're like, oh yeah, yeah. It's not, and I felt better because I had that, that community. I had people that I could reach out to. It helped me kind of know how to navigate and kind of to keep the balance in my life. So I think it's important for us to have, those networks, have somebody that you can call, somebody that you can talk to. It might keep you from hitting that burnout stage. When I say Shanetta, okay, you doing what else? Well, what did you do in this last week? That's a little much. Don't you think maybe you should scale it back? Those voices are good. It's good to have those people in your life and not take some of that stuff for granted. So, ladies, when you if you've ever felt burnt out, like in that moment, what are your thoughts? How do you navigate through it? Why are you laughing?
You said if
You
you've
said
ever
if.
figured out.
I know
Let's go
because
with
I don't want to. I mean, I don't want to assume. You know, like some people, like, well, I ain't never say I was burned out. You know, maybe. Listen, maybe y'all have done this thing better. I don't know. That's why I said if. So in that moment, like, is it like you realize, oh my God, I'm burned out, or is it like, you know, what are your thoughts during those times, or what have been your thoughts?
Go ahead.
Well, I think my biggest burnout is kind of evident. I just walked away from it all, but I did start making. In that moment, I went out to my car and cried. When I would reach that, I can't do it anymore. But it was building, and it was building. But at that moment, I knew that I had to make a change, and I had to look at myself and say, "This is I can't do it anymore." And so when I started making the plan to exit, that even just making the plan brought it down, brought me to a better place, seeing that there was a way out, there was light at the end of the tunnel, and I can do something different, I can do something better. And I started planning my exit, and that really helped me to get through it. So I think if you start to, if you know that you're burnt out or you're getting to that point, and you start to look for an exit or a way to pivot or a way to adjust to make things better for yourself, or just adjust, basically. Sometimes you don't have to, like I did, just be like, deuces to all y'all.
Right.
Walk out. Even if you just adjust some things, or even if you delegate, sometimes you can delegate, or you can get help. Maybe I can hire somebody and you do this part that just drives me crazy, and I do this part over here that's, that's more suited to my personality. Being able to delegate some things off to someone else helps. And I remember when my kids were younger, I was like, this is a lot. I'm here by myself. So 10 years old, you're doing your own laundry. They started doing their own laundry at 10. I decided I'm not cooking breakfast or lunch. I'm here for dinner. Breakfast, you can use the microwave and you can use the toaster. You're old enough to do that, handle it. There's always something in there. You can get it and do it yourself. I'm doing this by myself. We have to be a family. I set them down. I said, we're a family. I said, we're a family, and mommy can't do everything. So you can do your own laundry. You can make breakfast and you can make lunch. There's always something for you to make a sandwich. So I was able to delegate even some things to my children to say, I don't have to do it all. You guys can help, and we can come together as a family. Get your little chores that you do, so mommy's not doing everything. So one way is to delegate some things to other people, so it's not all on you.
I love that. The delegation and the teaching of responsibility, and the conversations of we're a family and we all have parts to play, and there are things that we each have to do in order to make the wheels turn in our home. Like in order to get us from point A to point B, everybody has a responsibility. Everybody has things they can do. You can do your laundry, you can make your bed, you can clean your room. I shouldn't have to do those things for you in order for our home to be clean, because we all live here. Don't step over the piece of paper that you see sitting on the floor. Pick it up. Like, live here. Those things help our kids to learn so much in those moments, and it helps us to kind of remove some of the burdens that we have. I can remember, I felt like for a long time, and I think Sam said it earlier about when you work in a job and you're like, well, if I don't do it, it won't get done. It wasn't just if I don't do it, it won't get done. It was if I don't do it, it won't get done right. And that was like the burden that I carried, is that it'll get done, but like, will it be correct? Will it be right? Will I have to go back and refix it? Like, how much more work is this going to be for me on the back end? So I may as well just go ahead and do it. And then you start building more and more things onto your plate of responsibility. And I think there have been times for me personally where burnout has come and I didn't even notice it coming. It just kind of like crept up on me and it was like, bam, and you're down now. And now what are you going to do? Because you can't even get back up because you're weighted down by all the things that you carry. You're stuck. And you have to find a way to dig yourself out of this burnout hole, basically. And those, I think, are some of the hardest moments when it hits you. You didn't see it coming. You thought you were just fine. You thought you were juggling everything just fine. I'm managing. I can do it. I got it. It's okay. I can do this. I can do that. And like you're taking on all these things, afraid of the word no, afraid to say no because you feel like I'm gonna be a bad wife, I'm gonna be a bad mom, I'm gonna be, a bad employee. If I say no, I'm a bad church member. If I can't, take on the new responsibility, sing in the choir and direct the praise team at the same time. I can't do everything. Like, I'm just bad if I can't get everything done. Like, I don't sing a lick, but I'm gonna participate. I'm right here. And I've never been in the choir at our church. They won't allow it. But just as kind of, that example, you take on all these different things and you get to that place where it just kind of hits you like a ton of bricks. And when it hits you, you have to be able to get up and put those pieces back together because there are people depending on you, right? And that's the part that I think gets scary for a lot of us, is because we do a whole lot because sometimes we don't have choices. If you're a single mom, or if you're the one who makes the most money in the household, or both incomes matter so much in the household that if you mess up one, so like it's kind of like that voice in the back of your head that's saying to you, well, if you don't go to work, the family doesn't eat. If you don't make enough money, the bills don't get paid. Right. If you don't see about your kids and something happens to one of them when you're not there seeing about them, then it's your fault. Now you have to deal with the fallout of that. And there are all these if this, if that types of things that come up in your mind that makes it so hard to turn things down.
So Richard said, doesn't it depend on what it is you say no to?
Yeah, I definitely think it depends on, what you're saying no to, but I think that it's okay to say no to things, that you have to figure out where that no is safest, where you don't have to do that in order to make or break your life. I didn't have to be a Girl Scout troop leader. I chose to. I could have said no, absolutely could have said no to that. But when I think back on it, it was valuable time with my daughter. It was valuable time with the girls that we mentored, through those years of doing it. Would I do it again now? Probably not. I'm okay with like, not going to do that. No, let's find you another mom that can handle that. Like, let me go pick one out for you and give that burden to somebody. Maybe that's how I ended up with some stuff. Somebody older was like, let's go find somebody younger to do this.
Yeah, one of the younger moms.
Right. But I think that learning how to figure out that feeling. So like now being a little bit older, I feel the spiral coming and I'm like, ooh, I've been here before. I felt this before. Let me back up. Let me take a break. And I wish, and I don't know how I would have gotten that skill without having the experiences that I had, but I wish that I had that ability when I was a little bit younger, when my kids were younger, because I do think that those moments that I spent being burnt out and unavailable to them, because now I'm burnt out, I'm no good as a mom, I'm no good as a wife, and that's time wasted, from them, or they're getting, because your family is who catches the heat of all of this. Like, you could be burnt out from your job. You could be burnt out from church activities, not church, not God, but like the stuff that we do in church, being burnt out from all those things. But at the end of the day, the people that feel it are the people that live with you. And so then now you're burnt out and it's taken away from your family. It's taken away from your children. It's taken away from who you are in that moment while you're trying to rebuild yourself and get back grounded and get back on your feet. And I think that if I would have had that skill when I was younger to say, this might be a bit much for me, I don't think I can handle that. And to be okay with saying, I don't think I can handle that right now. I think that I would have probably gotten to where I am a little bit faster now, to where I can see it coming, I can feel it. And I'm just like, oh, I think I need a moment. Now I would say no to something in a heartbeat now. I'd be like, yeah, no, can't do that. Sorry. There's a few things that kind of get me, like, where I'm just like, ooh, I can't say no to that. I have to do that. But if there's something that I just really feel like is not, my place, then I'm gonna, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I don't think I can handle that. I don't think that's for me, because I think that's the smart thing to do. I think that's the good thing to do, to recognize what your limits are, so that you're not constantly in this place of burnout. Because what happens is you you get burnt out, and then you pick back up where you left off. You don't eliminate and pick, you don't say, oh, let me, we just keep going and we do it again, and then we get burnt out again. And then we keep going, and then we get burnt out again. And the time frames between those burnouts are now about to get smaller and smaller. Right. So where it used to take 6 months before you got to a burnout place, now it takes 3. Then now it's, 4 weeks. And then it's every 2 weeks you're feeling that moment. Your body is stopping, your mind is stopping, you can't think, you can't function, you can't get anything done. And it's getting heavier and heavier. So you got to kind of have to find that moment where you can figure it all out, and then just kind of go from there and say, okay, this is my limit. This is how much I can take. This is what I can do. This is where I say no.
Right. Absolutely. I totally agree that no is magical. I mean, I was really good with a no. And then I had kids, and these kids, they soften you up. Like, your no is harder to come by. You look at them little faces and, oh, mommy, please. And, you get, okay, baby, mommy's baby, and you get sucked in. You get sucked in, and before you know it, like, you're a big softy. You kind of like Chili Willy. Can you do that? Yeah. And you say yeah to stuff sometimes that don't even make sense.
Those kids are having 2 or 3 jobs trying to pay for their little lives.
Yeah, now that they are bigger, right? I'm good with, we talk about it. Sometimes I have to explain to them why I'm not doing it. Like, yeah, I can, but I'm not. And you need to know, like, to kind of help them understand that sometimes there has to be boundaries. Like, I can't do everything, regardless of how great you may think I am, or even how great I think I am. Like, nobody can do it all. Nobody can do it all. So I make sure that they understand, like, sometimes it just is, it is what it is. But, like you were saying, that period where you are burned out and you're down, I think, like, you feel so much worse than if you would have just said no. Because now you feel like, oh my God, I can't even do the basics. Like, now my body is just shot. You're dehydrated. You're I don't know, your iron low, whatever stuff that happens, especially when you get over 35. It's like, different stuff just go down to E. You on empty. And I know lately, like, the big kick has been self-care, and that is really important, that we take care of ourselves. Because, like you said, I can't even be an effective mom if I have not taken care of myself. So sometimes it's okay, moms, ladies, to put yourself first. Now, of course, everything within reason. Let's be, like Richard said, that it does depend on in what context you are putting yourself first. But it definitely is important sometimes to put yourself first, to take that minute. You know what? No, why don't you go do that with Uncle Jacob and Auntie whoever, and I'm gonna stay home today and put my feet up on the couch. Sometimes it's important to have those moments, to give your brain a rest. kind of like to not think about something, nothing, just nothing. And listen, men, I think men have that like down pat. I know my husband does.
Bastard.
Because my mind be racing. It don't matter. It could be 3 o'clock in the morning. It's still the monkeys are still jumping in there. They're like having a party. I'm like, babe, what you think about? Nothing.
Nothing.
How?
Like, how do you not think about anything?
Right.
Teach me that.
Kids, you know, we got a bill on the wall. Let's do like this. Something you could be thinking. I'm relaxing. I ain't thinking about nothing. It's still to this day like it frustrates me so bad because I have not learned how to not think about nothing. Like I can, you know, minimize it to where I focus on, you know, something that's not as heavy, but I have not figured out how to think about nothing. But men, they have that.
Have I ever told you about this book that I read that I talk about all the time? That says that men are like waffles and women are like spaghetti.
Men are like waffles.
Mm-hmm. So it talks about the way the mind works. Okay. And so it basically talks about how men's brains are like waffles because it has all of the squares in it, and each box is a category. And so everything that's happening in life has a box that it fits into, like the syrup goes into the waffle. And it does not spill over into the other categories. Like, so if it's bills, it's over here. And when they say that their brain is not focused on the bill box, nothing with that is like functioning in that moment until they move that box to, you know, the most important place of their brain. So I think they have a box that has nothing in it. And like they move to the nothing box. It's like nothing. But our brains are compared to spaghetti because when you have a plate of spaghetti, when you go with the fork to pick up, you know, some of the spaghetti, you get all kinds of stuff tangled in together because it's all the noodles. They're intertwined. They're connected. So one thing is connecting to another thing, connecting to another thing. And this is like the way our brains work. So if the bills don't get paid, then I'm thinking about, you know, oh, we're not going to have lights. If we don't have lights, then we're not going to be able to cook. If we can't cook, then the kids are going to be hungry. If the kids are hungry, they go to school and they're going to be malnourished. If they're malnourished at school, then the school is going to call the people on us, and the people are going to come out to the house and find out we don't have lights. So like we've connected all these things, and the men have this box that say, pay the light bill.
That's it, right? That's it. Just pay the light bill. Wow, that's good. You might have a point here. My husband said he's thinking about the chip paint on the ceiling. You know what? See, like, and something that simple. If I see the paint is chipped, now I'm thinking we need to fix the paint. And then I'm thinking, I told him last week to fix this other thing. And he's supposed to do this. And this ceiling never going to get painted. Not with you. Like, now I done came all the way full circle with all the stuff that he ain't doing. And now my mind is focused on that. So, wow, is that your process? I love you, honey. But yeah, listen, that is a good point. He said my brain must be supersized waffles. Listen, I wish I could master those boxes, but I think, you know, just like everything else, we're made this way for a reason. Yeah. And if they got a box with just nothing in it that they can just pick up, you know, somebody got to be having, you know, connecting the dots while they thinking about nothing. So I guess it all works, you know, it all works the way that it's supposed to. But it is interesting, though, you know, the things that make us so different is also the things that make us kind of fit together.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like what you lack, I bring. While you got your box of nothing, I got this whole bowl of pasta waiting. It's waiting for you. So that's pretty interesting. I might have to look up that book. But I thank you guys for joining us this week. We are on every Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. Sometimes it's 4 of us, sometimes it's 3 of us. You might even hit a lucky night and just be the 2 of us. Who knows? But you'll never know unless you join us. So until next week, stay safe and take care of yourself. Take an extra moment this week to take care of yourself. And we'll see you next week.